The Good Vibrations podcast is made possible by sponsorship from the Phoenix Light Foundation. Visit thephoenixlightfoundation.co.nz for more information.
Welcome to Good Vibrations, and you're listening to Phyllis Brown, and I'd like to thank everyone for their feedback on the Strength Finder and empowerment. I think finding your own personal power is a really key to your own success. I think all too often we tend to give our power away to other people or to situations that we find ourselves in, and we can feel quite powerless, which I think will tie a little bit in with our conversation and our beautiful guest with us today. So really amazing feedback. Thank you so much, and thank you for listening to our show. So to get to our show today, I've got with me Shelley Dickson. Hello, how are you?
Hi, how you doing? I'm good, thank you.
Good. And I brought you in because I knew you from coming in and being a business consultant for our family business. And then I just watched you evolve from that process.
Bit of a whirlwind.
It has. And we've been linked since then. And I just think your journey is really inspirational. And I think that's what the listener is going to get from your journey. But first of all, I want you just to tell the listener just a little bit about your passion and who you are, and what's in Shelley Dickson's life that's good at the moment.
Okay, well, look, I'm very, very proud of my family. I love my daughters to the ends of the earth, and but I'm also very, very passionate about my career and my future and where I'm heading. So growing up as a child, my parents were always self-employed. We always were expected to be part of that self-employed world.
Right.
So when my husband and I got the opportunity with two young children to become self-employed, it was, oh my goodness, this is my destiny. This is what I was put here for.
Okay.
Didn't quite end up like that, as life's journey always has a different track for you to take. But we moved our family to Christchurch. Our oldest daughter had just started school. The other one was at kindergarten. We brought a 7-day-a-week business. We knew absolutely no one, not a soul.
Right.
Part of the reason actually that I wanted to leave where we were is because both families were there, and I felt that I'm the youngest in my family. I had no independence, so I was ferociously independent, and I wanted some independence with my own family to set up my own core. So we moved here, and that was an absolute whirlwind journey. My husband's a watchmaker, so that was a business that we brought, but the turnover decreased dramatically. The ability for us to look after our family based on that income wasn't there anymore. And somebody that I knew at a bank offered me a part-time role just to trial some hours, and I thought, yeah, okay, well, I was always good at maths, I'll just try that. And then I got inside and thought, actually, I can really make a difference in the life of people in business. Because in our business, no one helped us. So the lawyer didn't help us, the mall didn't help us, our accountant couldn't help us. So we would go for advice and no one would provide that for us. So I got inside the bank, I quite decided that I quite liked what it was all about. And had some really, really great managers who inspired me to step outside what I believed was my comfort zone. It actually wasn't. I was quite capable of doing that, but I just had never really pushed myself in that direction. And I remember being sent to Littleton, actually, pre-earthquakes, to lift the customer service there. So as a retail banker, not anything to do with business, but I still had the passion of helping business owners, and naturally that would become part of our conversation. So I remember speaking to the regional manager at the time and asking for a hybrid role, and he said, well, we just don't offer that. And I said, but what if you did? What if you just used me as a test case, as a guinea pig, to see if I could make this work for you? And that's actually how my business career with the bank actually started. And then I moved my way up through all the different areas of the bank, had some really cool jobs along the way. But then it got to the stage as a commercial banker, which I thought was my dream job. Actually, I couldn't fulfill the need inside me anymore.
Right.
So I could provide this great advice for business finance, but I wanted to do more than that. And there was this gap over the side. And I've got a diploma in psychology. I love people and how people interact and work. And so I decided to step off the diving board after 15 years and jump into something quite different. And yeah, I think at the start you said I took the blue pill instead of the red, and I definitely, the blue pill didn't turn out that well for me.
Yeah.
And at the time it was really hard because I'd left the security of a job, and a job that I knew really well that probably could have been there till retirement, I guess. But I had decided to go into the business advisory space because I wanted to be able to use the financial skills but enhance it with advisory, because I feel in New Zealand especially, small business owners don't have the help and support that they need. They don't know what they need because they don't know how to ask for it. And for me, I wanted to change that outcome for at least a couple of small businesses in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Potentially more.
Yeah, I want to just come back to, because I think you said something earlier on that's really interesting, that you went to your manager and you said, let's make this hybrid role. So obviously you had this skill or this knack of seeing a gap in the market, and then you sold yourself into that job. Now people listening might have a similar ambition. They might be working in an organisation or within a corporate space, seeing a role that doesn't exist. What was it that you said to him, or how did you put that across that made him think, yeah, I'm going to take a punt on Shelley? It makes sense, because I think the listener would love to know how you did that.
I thought long and hard about what they wanted from me in that role.
Right.
I also looked really hard at the client base and how I could fill a void for them.
Right.
And then I did the whole what's in it for them statement.
Right, okay.
So actually, it was a man. So with men, you need to plant the seeds, you need to water the garden, and the trees eventually grow. So there was a time period there.
Right.
But for me, I started, I guess manifesting is a word that you guys use, and I probably didn't realise it until just sitting here now with you. But I started to manifest those people within that community that actually needed me.
Right.
So I started to have advocates for me that said, well, why can't Shelley do this for me?
Right.
And so he would come over on his regional tour, and I'd say, oh, look at this. Such and such has come in here. Would you like to sit down and have a joint visit with us? And he would be like, whoa, no one ever wants me to have joint visits, sure. And that's what would come out of there.
Right.
I think we're always afraid to put our thoughts out there. And if I can say to the listeners, if you believe in your heart of hearts that there's a gap that you need to fill, you have to really challenge yourself, step outside of the comfort zone and give it a crack, because if you don't, you'll live to regret it. Now, I didn't realise that until just talking to you now.
Right.
I was going to go down a whole different road, because it's happened to me all over again. Obviously meeting Sharon, who you talked to about Strength Finder last week, that was at the start of a whole nother journey for me. How do I create this role that I wanted? And so you create the need. But the need has to come from the people that you're trying to create it for. So you have to nurture, plant the seed, water the garden. You have to really make it something that they have to have. So I always made it them. I always made it, for the bank, I made the bank crap loads of more money by being able to do both roles, right? So that's an upside for them. What's in it for them? Well, actually, you get to keep me here, because if you don't, then I'm going to have to go somewhere else. Or you get to make more money off me. You don't. I actually said you don't have to pay me any more money. I just want to do it because I want to learn. And you could upskill me, not promote me, and let's see if I can do it. So there was nothing in the end that he could overcome. And I remember at my leaving thing for the bank, he actually turned up. He didn't work at the bank anymore. And people at the end were allowed to make comments, and he put his hand up and he said, I will never forget sitting in that office at Littleton with you, and I actually didn't have an answer anymore. So what was the point? Might as well just say yes, and off we went. And that was the reality, because there was always a yes, but we can't because of, or so you just need to, I guess, manifest your answers and be ahead of the game.
Because I think what's fascinated me is, again, you came into our lives as this business consultant, and you thought, I really need to change. and this would be my dream job. And I remember as clear as day, you were talking about the Chamber of Commerce. And so we, at that point in time, and this is how coincidences work. And again, this is, I think, for the listeners who really read up the Abraham Hicks stuff and the Doreen Virtue stuff and you know, any of the manifesting books that are out there. So you've got to, you create it, you put it out there, you create it. And suddenly, not only were you being approached by, you know, people in the know, and you were being given the nod, and you were given the light. And I remember you were so excited. You were going, it's my dream job. You were going, and I'm going, well, okay. And then something else came out of the blue. And so at that point, because it was a really fascinating point in your life, you had lots going on, and you were manifesting before your very eyes, and it was like a whirlwind. For me, it felt like a whirlwind.
For me, it felt like a whirlwind. I was living the whirlwind. I had stepped off the diving board. It hadn't worked out.
Yeah.
Hindsight is a wonderful thing, and you and I talk a lot about times in your life that are difficult, but actually there's a gift. And I can honestly say, while some members of my family sitting in this room probably are not over that, for me, the gift is actually what I have today. Exactly. It didn't feel like it at the time. It was so hard. And, you know, actually, like I said last week, I challenge you listeners out there that are thinking about the position you're in and thinking it can't get much worse, because I remember feeling like that. I remember sitting in this room with you and you said, so how can I help you today? And I was like bawling my eyes out thinking, this is not even me. I don't even understand. And I really just met you through that consequence. So there's another gift. I got to meet the Brown family. Out of,
can't get rid of us now.
No, I can't, and I don't want to. But I guess I went off on another tangent and not being able to find a job or feeling like I wasn't employable. Nobody seemed to want to give me a chance. You're applying for all these jobs, and actually that's really challenging on your mindset and personally for you to be able to start. And I started to lower my expectations and actually apply for jobs that would have been absolutely no challenge to me. And my brother actually got me an interview at Mainfreight, of all places. And I was speaking to the national manager of Mainfreight, and he said, well, we could give you a job today, sitting in consignment out the back, doing the consignment tickets with the lovely people out there who we love. But the problem is you'd wipe all of them out of a job, and then we'd be left with you, and then you'd leave. So the reality is we want to work with you, but we actually can't employ you. And it was at that moment that I thought, actually, why am I even sitting here? I don't want to work for Mainfreight. I actually want to help business. And I remember approaching the firm that I'm with now, and I am going to shout out to them. So I work for Right Way now. Starting with them, and they put me through a rigorous process. At the same time, I was applying for a job at the Chamber of Commerce, and I remember saying to you, that's the dream job that I want. I actually didn't want that job at all. It just happened to be over here, and it seemed more easy at the time. And so starting with Right Way and having the interview process with them had been an eye-opener. And, you know, talking to my boss post them employing me, he just said, the story that you told about the clients that you had provided advisory services to is what sold us on you, because actually people don't think like that. People don't take it that seriously. And I think I'd only just started there when I met Sharon and did the Strength Finder. And I'm not an accountant. Obviously, I've got a background in finance, but I thought this business would work so much better if it was regionalised and actually ran as 3 regions, because for those of you living in the North Island, we're Southerners, we're a bit weird. For those of you living in Australia, we're Kiwis, we're even weirder. And so I believe the model would work a bit better. And actually, with the strengths, with having the coaching session, that was the plan I developed. Now, on that piece of paper, funnily enough, there was a 5-year plan. And at the end of 5 years, I would be the regional manager for the Southern region for Right Way. And I presented that to the CEO at the time, and she said, well, I challenge you that 5 years is too long. What about 2? And I was thinking, oh, crikey, how am I going to get to 2? And then she left. She resigned. And I was like, okay, so what just happened? Like, where did that career path go? And I remember being in another tailspin thinking, what the heck is going to happen now? And then the new CEO stepped in. And for whatever reason, I have no idea why, he came in and met our office, and he asked some really tough questions, and I was the only person in that room that would answer them, because I kind of thought at that moment in time, I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing to lose but to be honest and tell him the truth. And a couple of months later, he shoulder tapped me and said, I need you to apply for this job. So now I am the regional manager for the South Island, and it was 6 months to the day starting at that firm that I became the regional manager.
Yeah.
And all the while, you know, that was manifesting in me. Like I was vocalising, I was saying, you guys need to change this doesn't work, and this is why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
For me, I'm still about the customer. I'm ferociously protective of the customer in everything that I do, whether it be my internal staff customers or external ones. And I think for me, that's really helped me in this position. I never thought in a million years I would be here.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, before we just open up to some questions, I think for me it's about don't hide your light under a bushel. If you've got something to say, then be brave and say it. And be really courageous about your own value. I think to me, that's what inspires me about you, is that you are really courageous about how you value yourself. And that then comes across, and obviously has come across, because you've actually persuaded other people to see the value in you.
But I didn't always feel like that. That's the interesting thing. So I think sometimes you have to empty your fuel tank.
Yeah.
You have to go onto the reserve and drain all of that to actually see what's
figure out
real.
where the value is.
Yeah.
So we have some lovely people in the studio this evening. So any questions for Shelley?
Shelley, I've watched you blossom over that 6 months. I think it's 6 months, or it might have been a little bit longer. And what I'm in awe of you about is your ability to take on board what most people would just go, no, too much, but also never lose touch of the little things that are important to people along the way. How do you do that?
How do I do that? That's a really good question. It's a really tough question, because for the listeners that are listening, I am actually... that's why she's asking me. I'm the regional manager, as well as my old role for the company as a business partner. For me, the regional manager role was absolutely my dream, but I don't want to lose sight of the customer. So for me, it's important not to be an ivory tower leader. It's important to have a connection with the front line, and the connection with the front line is the customer. So when I sit back and I look at the role, is it overwhelming doing 2 more than full-time jobs? Absolutely. But I think it's all a matter of perspective, and you often talk about putting a different lens on. So I have the ability to change my mindset very quickly, and I think that helps. So I've had to learn to go from staff interactions to client interactions very quickly and change. And that's actually been quite exciting for me. Parts of it is very, very tiring and exhausting. Lots of travel. I find the travel is exhausting because I don't like flying, so there's a lot of anxiety. I'm very good at managing my time and prioritising what's important, but at the end of the day, every role I've had, the customer is the most important thing, whether that be internal or external. So whatever the problem is becomes a priority. The other stuff can just wait. So that's how I've learnt to deal with it. Potentially my family have suffered because of that, which I'm categorically aware of, because you can't be everything to all people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's how I balance and justify that. What is the biggest issue and the biggest problem, and making sure I can resolve that. And being in the regional role now gives me the ability to fix things a lot quicker. So I don't live in fear that I'm going to get in trouble with the CEO. In fact, we talk maybe once a week, if that, because there's a huge trust that's developed already through honesty. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but yeah.
Any other questions?
So I'm wondering about, I've heard how you're saying that you did it quite quickly within like 6 months. and manifesting not only by thoughts, but you actually speaking, which then created, manifesting into reality. And that 6-month process, that's quite quick. And I'm just thinking about how, from my own situations and other people's situations, we're manifesting. 6 months has gone by, a year's gone by, a year and a half's gone by, and there's this internal frustration of, I'm trying to manifest and nothing is happening. What am I doing wrong? How do I actually bring it into reality? I think for me, the reason that the journey has been so short and sharp is because of the change of CEO. If that hadn't happened, the manifestation would have taken a lot longer. And I think there was a fork in the road at that particular point in time. You can either choose to sit back and watch what happens, or you can choose to stick your head up and be honest and hope that it all works out. I lived in fear for a long time because, once somebody cottons on to the fact that you will answer them honestly, you almost become a target for their questions, and that can be quite dangerous. And I remember my husband saying, you'll end up with a target on your back for what you are doing. I encourage those people that, look, I didn't even realise that I was manifesting this. I don't have the same spiritual journey that you guys have. I do believe in spirit, absolutely. I've seen spirit, I've done a little bit with it. I think in manifesting what you want, you have to have confidence to keep pushing. You can't live in fear because the fear is what
hold you back.
What will hold you back.
And I think that's a key thing, Mel. I think to quantify what Shelley's said, just to wrap this session up, I think the more that you tell people what it is that you want to manifest, then they then start to manifest on your behalf. So it's a little bit like you saying to your chief executive, well, this is my ultimate goal. I'm here, I've started my job here, but I really see myself over there. And so for her, she said, well, it's going to be much quicker than 5 years. So she's already seeing the potential there. She's already manifesting that role on your behalf. I think a lot of people put out for manifestation, but they don't quite believe that it's ever going to happen, or they don't quite believe that they deserve it. And so therefore they're not telling the right people that can then help hold the energy of that manifestation to come through. And I think that's the key thing, where we're talking with honesty and integrity. Look, I see a gap, I see this gap in the market. I think I can help your customers and I can earn you a ton load of money. I need that job. And then other people going, why have you not got Shelley in this job? She's fantastic. So you've got then people beating your drum on your behalf. That then helps it come in. And that doesn't happen on all aspects. I get that, Mel, but I think when it comes to career in particular, if you don't walk your talk, then you can get bypassed. And a lot of people go into that victimhood, well, why did they get that and I didn't get that? But it's usually the person that shouted the loudest within the company that gets it. Whereas the shrinking violets, although they may have the skill, they maybe haven't put themselves forward or appear to have the skill or the drive, probably, and the desire, because desire is the key aspect of manifestation, how we desire things.
Phyllis, do you think it's also about going through that thought process but still putting yourself in the place of most potential?
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
And I think sometimes people might do the internal stuff, but they hide in their house.
If you don't think that it's possible to actually happen, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So when you're constantly vocalising it, and what I'm hearing is exactly what you did. You vocalised it and it allowed these opportunities to just emerge so naturally. There was also that, she was aware that actually there was a possibility and she knew and believed that it would happen.
Yeah.
So that's also really important, I think. That it's possible that it will happen.
Yeah. It's a really fascinating journey. It's been a fascinating journey since you've come into our lives.
It's been.
And it's just been amazing just to watch you grow and create this beautiful opportunity in your life. And I think if that's what inspires our listener, I think that's the key thing. I think your message is, if you truly believe in your own strengths and you truly believe that you can offer value, to a particular post or position or career opportunity, then just let people know. Let people know.
It's all about having courage.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming along.
Thank you.
And people can find you at Right Ways.
At Right Way, yep, absolutely, at
here
Right Way
in New
Limited.
Zealand. Yeah. So if there's any business owners out there and they're looking for some excellent business advice or business partnerships, accountancy and bookkeeping services, Right Way is the place to go. So thank you so much for coming. And so what I thought I would do for the book, one of the books that really inspired me and got me onto my level of manifestation is Ask and It's Given by Jerry and Esther Hicks, as they were now. Esther is now Abraham Hicks. There are 22 different tools within this book. And I bought this book on the plane journey on the way over here. We left on the 19th of November 2006 to come out to New Zealand. And I used to sell this book in my shop, and I never thought to get a copy for myself. I'd actually pay for one at full price. Being Scottish didn't go down well. Anyway, bought the book, and I used the techniques on this in terms of getting our visa. We came into New Zealand on an entrepreneurial visa. There are only about 40 entrepreneurial visas granted per year in New Zealand, and they're dealt with in Wellington. And we got a text to say your visa application will be looked at in 140 days. And I thought, no, we're running out of money. No, I'm sorry, because we were buying a business. And so I looked at one of the techniques in the back of this book, and it's just rubber stamp it as passed, approved. Every day I wake up, I go, it's going to be approved. And that was it. Every day, approved. We actually got our visa 10 days later. Completely approved, and we were on the 11th day we ran into the business and said, right, that's Alistair, the money's in the bag, it's ours. And we started our journey here in New Zealand. So manifestation, walking your talk. If you want some really good, I'm going to call them old-fashioned tools because this book is quite dated now, but it's for me the best and easiest route to manifestation because they give you really practical tools. And if you haven't looked at Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks, she's on YouTube, you'll find her an absolute delight. So that is my top tip for this week. For those of you who are looking for your dream job, this is how to maybe get the right vibration going. Next week we've got in the studio, we've got Melanie Kime, and she is going to be talking about soulmates and twin flames. How exciting. I know those of you who are looking for your dream beau, your once in a lifetime partnership, you might find it quite intriguing, slightly shocking, and maybe not what you thought it was going to be. So join us next week here on Good Vibrations. You can find us on Facebook, the website, Instagram, on Phyllis Brown NZ. Remember to subscribe to our show and send that good vibrations out to as many people as you possibly can, because we all need some good vibrations. That's us for this week. Take care for now.
This podcast was brought to you by the Phoenix Light Foundation. For personal development courses, visit thephoenixlightfoundation.co.nz and use the code PHOENIX50 for 50% off all courses.